Welcome to this peek at the future. Well, peek at really. We've been getting information about game updates, but it's not a lot that I can record on PTS. So this peek at the future is a little bit different. I'm also going to be talking and showing some possible updates and rumours that have been discussed on Twitter, on Reddit, or that I've just shouted out of a window of a passing car. Yes, I know, that's not as nice as video, but as soon as that stuff lands on the hallowed PTS turf, I'll run around with my video camera then. So, I'll show you some of the new cosmetic items that are currently on PTS, and then we'll talk about some of the interesting buzz that's been around in the past few days. So let's first look at some of the vehicle cosmetic changes. For the Flash we have the F51 deflection shield. It's a kind of front bumper idea for the Flash, as you might imagine. It takes some of the camo, but it doesn't look like it's a full transparency, it looks like it's slightly transparent. Next on the list we have the Flash Toe Cutter bumper. Not sure about Toe Cutter. What about Shin Shredder? Shin Shredder. It's difficult to say, but maybe just keep it Toe Cutter. I think that looks quite neat with the tech camo actually. And then next we have the Flash Wolfhound bumper. Got a strong quad bike look to it, this one. You ever see those quad bikes doing the Dakar rally? Kinda reminds me of that. Doesn't currently look like it's taken much of the camo, especially over those front arches. So we'll see if it stays like that. Next we have the Flash Dark Bloom tyre spikes. Some people did ask me why I use such bright camos to show the actual camo coverage. It's just to make it easier to see, honestly. So on the spikes there you can see that the camo itself is getting applied to some of the faces. Next we move on to the Harasser, and the Harasser Spider bumper. And to be honest, from the preview I wasn't that sold on it, but at night time it actually uses some lights at the front. You can see some of those prongs actually have lights on the end of them. So I think at night time that looks pretty neat actually. It certainly looks aggressive anyway. Next we have the Harasser Excursion windshield. And although in general I quite like camo coverage on these cosmetics, I think that looks really great. I know it's subtle, I know it's not the sort of heavy clad plating you see on other windshields, but as I mentioned the Dakar rally earlier on, that really reminds me of that as well. So you've got like an aerial and you've got a kind of side snorkel. So it's generally used for when vehicles are wading through water, so that you don't get water pulled into the engine. They use a snorkel that's sort of roof height. So on to the Sunday bus, and first of all we have the Sunderer Bulwark bumper. And no one's going to say that bumper isn't a serious looking bit of kit. Flippin' heck. And next up we have the Sunderer Foxhound Grille. This Sunderer Foxhound Grille is one of those cosmetics that really changes the whole look of the front of the Sunderer. It's not just the front grille, it's the bonnet or hood if you're American. Front windows, lights across the front, and of course the front grille as well. It's really squared off. And here it is where it's deployed. Gotta say, that screams NC. Next up from Arctorn, the Sunderer Journeyman Infantry Bay. So this is a cosmetic for the back end of the Sunderer. I think this is a subtle but nice change. It's got that nice feeling of it being like a variant of the Sunderer. It's not something that's stuck on, it looks really kind of cohesive. I wonder if those things right on the top corner of the back there are meant to be those smoke grenade launchers that you get sometimes. It certainly looks functional. Looks really good. And there we have it where it's deployed. And finally, for everyone's favourite bus, the Sunderer Husky plating. Again, this is for the back end of the Sunderer. As you can see, it's given more attention to sort of windows and kind of reminds me of those kind of police riot vans or something like that. It doesn't seem to be taking a lot of the camo for the back doors. I don't know if that's an error or a choice. We'll see when it hits live. But again, nice to see some sort of variation of the normal Sunderer shape. Okay, on to the Lightning. First, by Krilikin, we have the Lightning Slat Plating. so that may look a little bit extraordinary for people who haven't seen something like that before, but that is actually based on a sort of real-life technology where tanks use grates to stop any explosives from actually hitting the hull. Next up we have the Lightning Assorted Kit plating. So this doesn't look like it's taking the camo at all, or is it taking it very faintly? It's hard to say actually. But I think that front plough looks really neat. So let's look at some of the helmets for the different factions. Starting with TR. By Josh Merrick we have the Evil Eye helmet. You may remember that last time I talked about perhaps getting access to those developer commands so I could actually see the helmets in game. Unfortunately that's not possible at the moment. I spoke to Radar X about it. Hopefully that might change in the future, but there's no plans to. So currently we're just going to have to look at the camo coverage of the helmets in the preview of the UI like we're doing currently. Next up, created by Fuzz, we have the Illuminator helmet. Feels like it might almost be borderline NC that, but it does work with the TR aesthetic as well. If you're wondering why there's no NC, I couldn't find any labelled new or upcoming. If I have missed yours, or if you want to see one of the ones that you've seen me scroll past or something like that, do drop me a message and I'll include it in the next video. So let's look at some VS helmets. This from Biscuit 3, the E-Dash, I'm just going to call it the VX41 helmet. Since I saw this VX41 helmet, it's got something of the pagan card to it. So shout out to all the Dragnet fans. And just when you thought the references to the film Predator had finished, Fuzz brings us the Vice C3R35 helmet. Or as I'm calling, the Predator helmet. And last but by no means least, A7 Robobot brings us the Trismegatus helmet. One of those, probably. Of course, I don't have favourites, because I'm not playing favourites. And of course, it would be unfair of me to have a favourite, but if I had to pick a favourite, and obviously I don't because I don't have favourites, but if I did have favourites, I think this one looks pretty great. So, first of all, it was nice to see that former creative director and hirsute pinnacle of Planetside 2, one Matthew Higbee, said that he stopped by the PS2 offices and had seen a couple of new and exciting surprises that were being worked on, some cool stuff ahead. Personally, with no even monthly talk show now with the developers, it's nice to hear information about future developments for PS2, stuff that we don't know about yet. Secondly, I want to take a look at this screenshot by B. Burness that was posted on Twitter with the text, "When you see it... Initially it's tough to see what's going on, but some eagle-eyed people spotted there appears to be an almost invisible sunderer on the left-hand side. This was then confirmed by Matthew Sherman on Twitter that it was indeed work-in-progress stuff, but hadn't even been on internal tests yet. The current implementation is that the sunderer deploys and then it produces a field that cloaks itself and any infantry within 10 meters. He also discussed that this state was very not the final implementation. He doesn't want people to be able to fire while cloaked, and details such as enemies becoming cloaked when they enter the field, and stuff like that still had to be discussed and decided upon. But that does lead to about 1,000 other questions about this feature's possible effects. What does it mean for actually finding and spotting deployed sunderers? What is the counter to a cloaked sunderer? And have dark light flashlights just become very important? Like I said, nothing solid yet, but I'm very interested to hear how this idea might actually change the way PS2 is played. GradeRX also tweeted about a forum post from bburness about some in-development features for the Galaxy. The current idea seems to be that the Skywhale would be able to unlock a vehicle ammo dispenser and nanite proximity repair system, so sort of AoE repair. Although the initial reaction to that might be, oh yeah, like a Sunderer, I get it. But it does open up some interesting ideas and possible game-changing mechanics for both the air and ground game. In-flight repairing of ESFs might actually be a thing. And what about gals flying repairing passes over gangs of harassers? Could actually have some interesting strategies happening. If you have some strong feelings about these ideas, then point your intertubes towards the Planetside 2 forums. I've included a link in the description below. Finally, I wanted to briefly mention that bburness organised an armour test on PTS. Unfortunately, I wasn't online for long, but the fact that it happened at all means that it's still in the cards. Long-term Peek at the Future fans, or Peekies as I'm now irritatingly going to call you, will remember that I did a video showing what those proposed changes could be. Those values were changed again for the last PTS test that Higby did, but we didn't hear much about it since then, so I'll keep an ear to the ground over those proposed vehicle weapon changes, and you actually earn double Peaky points if you recall that Higby was also planning a flat buff for the health of all main battle tanks at the same time, so we'll find out if that change makes its way to live as well. Thanks very much for watching this 14th edition of Peek at the Future. It's slightly different in format to the previous versions, so I'd love to hear your feedback on it. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to type angrily into the comment section below. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, and really who wouldn't want to do that, then I'm at LCTR Games. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.